I wasn't sucking up to him because he couldn't sign me. I mean, I was gone. I was over the hill. But I brought him a bottle of red wine, Argentinian red wine.
Nice.
I went in his little coach's office and stuff, and he was brilliant. Showed me all what they were doing, but make no mistake, they also said he can make a grown man cry.
You are listening to House of Football, brought to you by Sports Joe and William Hill.
Hello, I'm Eric Lalor. Welcome to episode 22 of House of Football with Sports Joe and William Hill. Thrilled to announce that my two guests this week are legendary Irish footballer and man of the league and St. Pat's stalwart and legend, Conan Byrne. Conan Byrne, you're very welcome back to the podcast.
Talking about football legend, I thought you were going to introduce the other fella first.
And now we're moving on to a bona fide legend. David, I hope that's not you sitting in front of your trophy cabinet there, by the way.
I think it's Harry Kane. That's Harry Kane.
Well, we're absolutely thrilled to have former Irish international and brilliant striker David Connolly. Dave, you're very welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Lads, we've got so much to talk about, so we're going to crack into it. I suppose the first thing first, the Women's World Cup came to an end. The final football didn't come home. It took a diverted flight back to Spain, and Spain became champions of the world. And I don't know if you saw the game or anything. I watched the game. I enjoyed the whole tournament, I have to say. And Spain, in my opinion, thoroughly deserved to win on the day. Conan?
On the day, absolutely. Just through the group stages, they were kind of doing really, really well. And then they came up against the Japanese and they absolutely tore them apart. The counter-attacking play that they did in the game was unbelievable. Spain couldn't live with them. So I was a bit worried going into the latter rounds of the competition how Spain would do, but they've been absolutely superb, and even like shown superb resilience. Two players that I'd like to mention: Sama Paralelo obviously missed out. She didn't play for the quarterfinals or the semi-finals, but was a super sub, came on, scored goals, started the final and did really, really well. And then obviously Olga Carmona as well. Got whipped at half time against the Japanese as captain. Didn't play a minute of the last 16 and then came on for extra time then in the quarters. Kept her position for the semis, got her goal. Fantastic finish in the semi-final and a quite brilliant finish in the final as well to win the tournament for Spain.
Outstanding. David, did you watch the final yourself?
Yeah, I did. I was actually in Spain, so it was
an Irishman in Spain watching Spain against England in a World Cup final.
Yeah, and I had a choice of about 3 Irish pubs within stone's throw. So I watched it with my son. So we had good fun. So
excellent.
I thought Spain were brilliant, to be honest. I thought they were absolutely brilliant. Technically, they were fantastic, and not only the goal from Olga Carmona, but just her general play as a left back was just sensational. I mean, she was just terrific in possession. I thought they were excellent. I thought they were really, really good, Spain, and thoroughly deserved the win.
I was saying to you just before we came on air, David, that obviously it's an Irishman's duty not to support England in any major international tournament, but I don't know, it's something about the women's football. I've really started to get into it and watch the Women's Premier League on Sky and all that. So I've gotten to know the English players and characters, and I like them. I like a few of them, like Millie Bright and Alessia Russo and Lucy Bronze and players like this. Mary Earps as well. Mary Earps had a fine World Cup, but I wasn't as fervently supporting Spain as maybe I would be if it was the men's match. Do you know what I mean? But you have a different take on that, David.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I just looked at it I, from my point of view. So, say the penalty, and one of the England players, Lucy Bronze, delayed the taking of the kick, and the Spanish had to send players in the box, and I just thought, I know it's gamesmanship and all that, but I thought the ref should have booked that, and I thought there was a lot of fouling going on, a lot of technical fouls from England that they got away with, and I was just looking at it from a sort of like neutral perspective, just admiring the Spanish, and thought England looked like they didn't really know what to do, banging the ball long and. And
then throw Millie Bright up front as an unorthodox centre forward, like 15 minutes to go. That was a real panic measure, I thought.
Yeah, exactly. I got to be honest. I didn't watch. I watched the Ireland games early doors, and and little bits and pieces. But I didn't watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I made a point to go and watch the final, being in Spain. So that was nice.
A nice afternoon for you in Spain, there, David. A nice one.
Yeah.
Okay, right. We go straight into the Premier League then, lads, because the Premier League is back in full swing. 2 games played, unless you're Burnley and Luton, and already the 2 teams tipped for the title have maximum points. They're up there. They're both looking good. I think if we start off, I suppose, with the big match, one of the big matches over the weekend, which raised one of the most talking points, was Spurs, Manchester United. As a Manchester United fan, I came into this season with a lot of optimism. Now, I know there's still a week and a half or so to go in the transfer window and things can still happen, but what is going on there at Manchester United? Why are they looking so poor and so exposed? I mean, people were lauding Spurs on Saturday for a fine performance, but I mean, as bad as United were, United could have still scored 3 or 4 goals. So I don't buy into the whole fact that Spurs looked really brilliant. I just thought it was more United looked pathetic. Your thoughts on Manchester United at the moment, David?
Well, say the defeat away from home. You're a United fan, so you would know they had 8 defeats last season.
Yeah.
So I don't think that was the most they've had in the season. So I don't think it. You shouldn't be shocked. I doubt you are shocked. Now, I think I've said this before, but if I was United in the summer, I would have made a signing at centre half. For sure, I would have tried to got Garvadol before Man City did, and they could just do. I think they could certainly do. Now I know they got Martinez, a left side centre back, but he's a left footer, and Garvadol the same. But I think he looks absolutely class, and I think City have got, say, 4 outstanding centre backs and are so defensively solid. Look at Newcastle. And United just look a bit porous, don't they? They look like you can get at them the whole time. So credit to Spurs. I mean, I'm not too sure too many saw that performance coming. And we've all seen the stats, like all the passes they had. And I know they had no Harry Kane, but, they were well-worthy winners. And look, you can I'm sure you might say, well, Mason Mount and Casemiro as a holding pair, is that right? How do you fit? Fernandes, Garnacho, Anthony. I mean, Anthony is no Iron Robin.
No.
Anthony cannot cut in. I know he hit the post, but Iron Robin used to finish like Duffer. Cut in off that right hand side and finish. Anthony doesn't finish. He doesn't finish enough for the layout. So I don't know where the goals are going to come from, because Rashford had a few. He had a few chances, didn't he? And the Spurs keeper, I thought, was brilliant. Vicario. Yeah. He made some great saves.
Just on Rashford, Conan. Roy Keane made the point that he looks like he's sulking because he's being played out of position. Because obviously he prefers to play off the left, and he's not an out-and-out centre forward. But for the fella who's on, I don't know what his wages are. They're astronomical. He signed a new contract there. You think he'd have the ability just to fill in for a bit in as a centre forward. I mean, he broke into that Manchester United team those a few years ago, scoring 2 goals on his debut against Arsenal as a centre forward. So he has played there before, but his body language looks a bit off. It's like he's thrown a strop that he's not playing in his favourite position.
I don't like with Keane. It was just, he probably saw that the way he went off after being substituted. It's not great, but a lot of players are like that. They might be frustrated with themselves. We all know Rashford's best position is coming in off the left and getting shots away, because that's what he's really good at. Similarly, but not as good as Thierry Henry, the way he cut across players and aim into that far corner. But I thought Rashford had a good first half. He made a great run, like electric pace to get in behind Romero and Devin. And only, as David said, for Vicario, it would have been 1-0 Man United. But I think, talking about Rashford, I think we have to talk about Højlund as well. They pay 75 million for a player that can only play once a week at the moment. He can't play 2 games in a week. Why not pay the extra 25 million and get Harry Kane, a proven goal scorer that knows the league inside out, that can score goals in the Premier League? So that's the one. That's the worry that I would have felt, is that why didn't they just go all out and sign Harry Kane rather than a 20-year-old Norwegian international that's done really well at international football, not so much at club level, and that can't play two games in a week. Yeah,
they're buying potential there, I suppose. David, if we can come to you, saying a lot of Manchester United fans saying the problem is in midfield, and we touched on it briefly there, Mount, Casemiro, Bruno. And they're saying that, Casemiro needs help in there. Even last season watching Casemiro, great signing for us, but missing a lot of games through suspension. And it always took him, I saw, 3 or 4 games to get back up to speed. And I wonder if it's the case again that it's only 2 games into the season. He needs another couple of games under his belt. But more importantly, he needs somebody at the base of that midfield giving him a bit of a dig out, because he's the most dribbled past midfielder in the whole league at the moment. He's like 6 times he's been dribbled past. Now, I don't know whether that's a symptom of him being exposed on his own. Your feelings on that, David?
Yeah, I mean, I know there's a bit made of I should say this, like he's full of face.
Yeah, chipmunk. Yeah.
When he come, and I know maybe they go away and they enjoy themselves. You have lots of, it's a long season, so and then you get back into shape. That's kind of like the olden days way, right? You when you're a player, you've been away, you enjoy yourself, you come back and you use pre-season to get fit. It seems like these days everyone comes back fit, ready to go. But it looks like maybe Casemiro, does enjoy his summer.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And then he needs a few games to get going. But I mean, look, I guess the layout they've made on Mason Mount gets him in the team, but whether Eriksen would be better alongside him, but obviously neither him nor Casemiro, you would say, have the legs, right? So
McTominay,
for sure, that would be an issue for them. The lack of pace and mobility in the sort of centre midfield areas, and how he gets that mix right. I mean, look, I don't like United playing with 2 holding midfield players anyway, but maybe Ten Hag thinks that they can't play with 1, so they're playing with 2, and even the 2 maybe don't have enough legs.
Are you surprised with the lack of game time Scott McTominay is getting, David?
Yeah, I mean, I really like Scott. I know he was linked with a move away, so Scott coming in, I think, would be a certain change that they might look at doing against Forest. I don't know. I mean, Forest had a good win the other night, so I watched that one in the Irish pub as well. I was in that place, I
was wondering where your suntan was, David.
Yeah, exactly. But this is my tan. This is as tanned as I get. So I mean, Scott. I'm sure Scott, within the options they got, right. But you have to say, what are they going to do? Go and spend. What other holding midfield player could they have got?
Well,
because I know Casemiro was looked at like as a short-term plan, right?
Yeah.
Maybe a season, 2 seasons, and they might bring in someone younger. But Lavia's gone. Caicedo obviously was an astronomical amount. I doubt they would have paid that anyway. Where would they go, and who were their next targets after that?
Yeah, I suppose they've been linked at the moment with Amrabat, the Moroccan player, who does look like, I mean, all the stats and all point, but he had an amazing World Cup. But is he the answer? I mean, I suppose what he does is he gives legs to the team. Well,
you would say, okay, well, why didn't they go? I know Conan's mentioned, say, Harry Kane. Agree with that. Geez, he would have been fantastic. I would have strengthened every part. If you're United, right, I would have gone right bang through the middle. You could have said, well, why don't they go and spend 100 million on Declan Rice?
Yeah,
because he arguably could have done that. He could do that role as a lone holding midfield player, But yeah, I think they've got a few things to iron out. And again, the away form is a worry, because they look kind of, which I guess Roy will be looking at. So many away defeats last season, 8, the record. I think equal record defeats away. And this season, you think, well, how's that going to change? And I'm not too sure it is. 1
point from the top 9 last season away from home, which is just sacrilegious, really. Just before we move off Man United, Dave, an interesting thing we found out was that you played against Erik ten Hag back in your Feyenoord days.
Oh,
you did, and he was marking you. He was the centre half, and you scored against him. Oh yes, you did. Yeah, you beat them 5-1. You beat 20 5-1, and you got a goal. And you looked around. Was he balls back then, Dave? Do you remember?
I don't know, but that was. I think that might have been. I don't know if it was my debut. I'm not sure, but look, I think
you do know. Of course, you know.
I swear I don't. But I mean, if it was, he's done very well, right?
Yeah.
Eric, he's done very well, but I certainly think he needs them. What they would do between now and a week or whatever is left. I'm not too sure. I mean, he's put his goalkeeper in, right? Which is one thing. There's quite a few new goalkeepers come in, but you look at how Vicario done, and you would have gone, well, I know it was a lot of money, but Vicario looks like a really good signing for the money he was. And you just think United's recruitment, you might go, well, have they got it right there? But I guess we'll see.
Yeah. And just on the Roy Keane said that Roy Keane gave Man United the worst insult ever because he's famously quoted as saying, Spurs, it's just Spurs. And he says, Man United are the new Spurs. And again, another box office quote from Roy. And David, obviously you know him, you played with him, you worked under him. Is what we're seeing at the moment of Roy Keane on Sky Sports and his punditry, is that reflective of the man you know?
Yeah, I guess. Look, he's got a fantastic, wicked sense of humour. He can be quite dark with it at times, but I mean, I'd love to know how he thinks when he's working alongside Daniel Sturridge, who's singing. I mean, Roy must think. I think Roy at times would think, "What am I doing here?"
Right.
I'm sure he does, because I think Roy feels he was destined to manage, and I think he's. I wouldn't say settling for being a pundit, but I'm sure deep down he would know that this is ultimately not what I think not what he would want to be doing. He'd want to be managing. He'd want to be coaching and managing. And but I think his honesty is brilliant. I like how he calls things as they are, and he's got a great sense of humour. Yeah, if you fall the wrong side of him, obviously, as people do. But I mean. I had good and bad times with Roy, and I think he brings a lot to that punditry. But I just think I think with someone alongside him, I think he could still offer something a lot in the game, and I don't think he'd be settling for being a pundit. He might. I'd love to know what he says when he goes home to his missus after being beside Daniel Sturridge.
He probably doesn't even speak to her.
Yeah, maybe not.
I don't think we're giving Spurs enough credit, Eric.
Yeah, tell us, Conan.
Just like obviously Brentford away, very tough place to go to. Not many teams got picked up points there last season, and then obviously getting a great draw, and then beating United 2-0. I thought the three in the middle were absolutely superb. Basuma in particular was fantastic.
He looks like a new player, doesn't he?
Very good. And again, Brighton, coming from Brighton, obviously needed a year under his belt last season, and Ange has just brought him in and made him the main man in the six.
Conte didn't fancy him last year, but as you say, Ange seems to really embrace them.
And like I think his way, his philosophy of football, it's like we score more than you. So you mentioned there about United missing a few chances. Spurs missed a few chances as well, and I know Gary Neville in commentary as well talked about Pedro Porro at right back and playing as that inverted fullback going into midfield, and he wasn't up to it, and that's probably the position that I'd exploit if I'm coming up against Spurs, is that particular position. But everywhere else, like Udegaard at left back, Destiny Udegaard, he went on loan at Udinese last year, did really well, came back, new player completely. And then obviously Son, Kulusevski and Richarlison. If Richarlison starts firing on all cylinders,
and Madison, friend of the podcast,
Madison, as well in the 10. Like Spurs are a good side, Eric. And I was very, very impressed with them on Saturday.
Impressed with Postecoglou so far, David?
Yeah, I am. I think that Aussie. I played with a lot of Aussies. Kevin Muscat, loads of them. I mean, and I like, generally I seem to get on quite well with the Aussies. I mean, they're pretty honest. They say, they remind me a little bit of maybe Ireland, a little bit, Irish players a bit, I think Ange's like that. He's honest, says it how it is. I think he seems like how he carries himself in his press conferences. I think he speaks really well, but I don't think he necessarily says too much. But I think he just says enough to be honest as much as he has to be with things, like how he handled the Harry Kane thing, and how he carries himself on the side. I think he seems really detailed in his work. And as Conan said, like James Maddison, if you've watched James Maddison coming through, like at Norwich, I've watched him for years. I mean, he's a brilliant player. I like his honesty. I like his interviews. I like how he's got a bit more than the average Joe in terms of what he says. He doesn't just give the stereotypical yes, no.
There's no filter. You're right. Yeah.
He opens himself up a little bit more. And Spurs have always had that maverick or that creative number 10 or a Berbatov or whoever, like that creative player, Robbie, like
back in the days, Glenn Hoddle as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think James Maddison is class, and I think Spurs with him have made a really good signing. But I'm probably the biggest Harry Kane fan, because in that pub the other night it was like a dream. They had Forest and Sheffield United on one screen. They had Bayern Munich on the other, so I could keep going. And they had a nice little seat, and so I saw Harry Kane, and he got his goal. No, went off injured. Look, they will miss him. They will miss him. Make no mistake. Give it a few weeks, a month. Every side is going to miss someone like Harry Kane. I mean, I think he's one of the world's best strikers. So make no mistake, they're going to miss him, and I think we might be talking a bit differently in a few weeks' time about Spurs, because as well as they've done, I think he's almost irreplaceable. And I like Richarlison, don't get me wrong, I do, but it's a massive void to fill, and I don't think they're going to fill it no matter what.
If you were Ange, David, how would you spend that money? Would you spend it on a centre forward, or do you see another position in that team that they need to strengthen?
Well, I guess it's who would you sign to try and replace Harry Kane? Because I think Richarlison is Brazil's number 9, right? So when you're trying to manage that squad as a manager, and Pochettino obviously was at Tottenham, and he managed that squad really, really well, and he likes a small squad. Ange is the same. Ange wouldn't want an abundance of players causing him a problem. And Richarlison is expected now to fill and play that central striking role. So whoever he brings in is he going to be a direct replacement or direct competitor for Richarlison? No, because when Harry Kane was fit, no one replaced him. So I think Richarlison expects to be the number 9 now. And I think you have to give your confidence. There's one thing Ange looks like he's done. He's given them a whole load of confidence, as you touched on. Like, Bissouma looks brilliant. They look confident. They look like they're really enjoying themselves. You suddenly promise Richarlison, say, to be the new number 9 once Harry Kane goes, and then you bring someone else in. I think that has a real deep impact on the squad. And I think as a striker, once right, I'm number 9 now, I'm the one. So I don't think he'll be bringing in another striker. I'll be surprised, and it definitely won't be, I don't think, as someone to go up against with Richarlison for that striking role. I think that's his, to make his own this season, yeah.
So ultimately, will Kane be a bigger loss for Spurs or Man United with the season ahead?
Man United. I feel sometimes in the way that, well, especially the way Spurs played Sunday, that they didn't need Kane, because they had the impact that the 3 lads in the middle had. They got the ball out wide to Kulusevski and Son, and the chances were created because one always sat, whether it was Sarr or Bissouma, and the other went in. Kane sometimes drops deep and drops into those spaces. Now, there's no better player than him to do that, but I do think that Spurs will do well without him, whereas with United, I think they need him.
Yeah.
That would be my take.
And that's the cold hard facts for a lot of Man United fans. But anyway, we'll move on to money bags in Stamford Bridge. Todd Bowley has spent just under $1 billion since he took over, and in 40 Premier League games they've won 11. Not a great return for your buck. How is that even possible? I suppose every player that's come in looks almost inferior to what they signed. Dave, any thoughts on what's going on at Chelsea at the moment, or do we just need to be more patient?
I think I look at how West Ham played, right?
Yeah.
And what did they do the first few minutes, which is, I guess, you'd say, right, Chelsea put it in the corners with the players West Ham have got. Yeah, play for territory, play for throws, play for corners, and we'll put it in the box. And I thought they did that brilliantly. I mean, Ward-Prowse looks like a great signing. He put 2 corners in. So if you look at how Chelsea marked, so they had, which a lot of teams do this, right? They have the zonal players, the bigger ones, along the 6-yard box or near post area. And they kind of leave the back post not free, but it's less important, and you might have smaller players picking up bigger players. Well, you saw from the very first corner, Ward-Prowse, brilliant ball, deep delivery, back post. They nearly score off the first corner. And then you go, right, okay, he's got his arm up again. Second corner, where's it go? Back post. So straight away they've done their homework and gone, well, Chelsea load the near post area of all their big players, Thiago Silva, etc. So when we're coming in, we're aiming it deep. They have smaller markers, and they got their goal. And you wouldn't say it was simple, but it was. It's kind of simple football from West Ham, and effective football. And I think Will Prowse will do really well. And for Chelsea, I don't know how he's going to manage that squad.
Yeah.
Because he's got so much deadwood out. But when I left Southampton when he took over, and I went back in there, I actually bought a bit. I wasn't sucking up to him because he couldn't sign me. I was gone. I was over the hill. But I bought him a bottle of red wine, Argentinian red wine.
Nice.
I went in his little coach's office and stuff, and he was brilliant. Showed me all what they were doing and the training. And a few of the lads were saying to me, "Geez, he was breaking players that they work so hard."
Oh, really?
So,
was this like the pre-season training, David? Yeah.
Yeah, they worked. Let me tell you that some of those lads at Southampton said they'd never had anything like it.
Wow.
He works them. It's hard to put into words like that how hard they worked and how detailed he is. So I'm a big fan of his, and I think as a manager, I think he's superb. But I think it made a mistake. He's got a bit of a job in how he tries to, because they look pretty good pre-season.
Yeah.
Yeah, they look pretty good in some of the games in America. They looked pretty good against Liverpool, and I guess going to West Ham, it was almost like they I don't know, they got a few. He's got a bit of work to do. Yeah. Make no mistake. And West Ham done them pretty simple football for me. How they done them, certainly with the first goal.
And like you mentioned there, with the bottle of red wine and the little coach's office and all that, and the players said it was the hardest thing. But did they obviously bought into it though, David? So he seems to be a manager that players like to play for. Yeah,
but make no mistake, they also said he can make a grown man cry. Which I think all the top managers can do that, right? They can put an arm around you, but if you're not pulling your weight, you're not good enough. Then he will certainly takes no prisoners. So I think he will get it right, but I think it's going to be a bit. And I think that performance was probably a bit unexpected. And I wonder how they do against Luton, because Luton play a bit similar to West Ham. Obviously, they don't have West Ham's players, but they were so direct, play a similar way. And they're at home, Stamford Bridge. I imagine they'll obviously have enough for them, but it'll be a difficult game.
Yeah, conceding set pieces will be a worry for them, I suppose. Just going on Chelsea, it is a big task for Poch, but that's why he's been brought in. There's an interesting stat there. Chelsea in the Champions League final in 2021, they named the squad there at the weekend of 23 players, and only 2 players from that Champions League squad only 2 years ago remain, and they're Thiago Silva and Ben Chilwell. It is a mammoth task. We just need to be patient with Poch.
Yeah, I think so. There's been a huge rotation of players. Obviously, a lot have come in. A lot of talk about Caicedo's performance when he came on. Look, it's his first start in a Chelsea jersey, and even with the transfer fee, nerves are going to kick in. Giving away the penalty, but look, he'll recover from that. Absolutely no problem. And it was 1-1 before they missed the penalty, so they could have been going in at half time 2-1 up if Enzo Fernandez had taken that penalty, that spot kick, and that would have put them 2-1 up at half time, and it would have been a different game altogether. The disappointing thing for me, I think, would have been when Aguerd got sent off with 25 minutes to go, that Chelsea didn't really exploit it as much as they could. I do think Nicholas Jackson will score goals. I think he's a really, really good player. And then with the way Poch plays, and like David said, he has the capabilities of managing a squad. We saw it with PSG. He had 3 of the standout players in world football in the same team, and he managed them particularly well. So I don't think that's going to be an issue, but he does have a mammoth task in getting Chelsea Champions League football this year, in my opinion.
And I wonder, is Todd Bowley he hasn't shown it so far to be the patient type. You wonder if Chelsea do struggle over the next few weeks and months, will the pressure ramp up, and will Todd Bowley have another blown out of gasket and another manager coming in?
I think he'll give Poch patience. I think that's key now for Chelsea going forward, is that they do need a bit of stability in the manager's chair. Bit like your stability there, Eric, in the podcast chair.
How much you better believe it. But Todd Bowley, all that money he has, why doesn't he just buy Brighton? And move to Stamford Bridge, that's what he seems to be taking them bit by bit. But that's an awkward segue into Brighton. But like, lads, they've lost so much talent again over the summer. They've brought in Bolivian under-12s, lads who look like they are already superstars, like top of the league, 8 goals in 2 games. De Zerbi is like, he's working some magic there, David, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, just coming back to the Chelsea, but just quickly, right? There used to be a squad of loads of wingers, and they got rid of all the wingers, and now they've re-signed wingers, but they're not playing with wingers, and then they're spending tens of millions on Mudryk, but it looks like Hudson-Odoi, who was going to be the next best winger, is going for like a pittance.
Yeah.
So it's just not joined up thinking at all. And like a few years ago, I was told a story that they had a big inquiry at Chelsea after signing a particular player, and who didn't work out very well. And I was told this on really good, And so they did a big investigation. They actually then asked for the flight details of the recruitment when they went to watch this player, and did the manager go and everything. So, and they got it all back, and there was obviously, and they've changed around the director of football, technical director, Emanello's gone, and all this sort of stuff. So that was a player who didn't cost as much as some of these players they're signing. So I'm sure Todd Bowley at some point he will have this tracing process in place to make sure that because accountability at some point, these 100 million for this, 60 million for that, you want to make sure look, he's earned his money. You don't want to be blowing it as you want to be making sure these are the right signings for the right sort of money. So and it looks like for a long time they haven't made them. In contrast to Brighton, who, what a great segue that was, right? In contrast to Brighton, who I mean, I've seen Brighton so often. The amount of I remember praising De Zerbi probably 2 seasons ago, saying he was up there with Pep, and someone hammered me on Twitter, someone and said, "What are you on about?" And then Pep said, "De Zerbi's the best playing out from the back in world football," and I sort of sent that back on Twitter or whatever. And that's not to be an know-it-all, but when you watch them, and some of the lads I played with, like Adam Lallana at Southampton, Adam Webster I played with at Portsmouth, they're now working under De Zerbi. They say he's just absolutely incredible. And
what makes him so good, David?
Well, they say he is. They say he's unlike Graham Potter, right? When you used to go and watch Graham Potter, because Aaron Connolly would be there and he'd be on the bench at times, and unlike say, because when you work for the media there, you're really close to the technical bench. You're at a technical area. You're like, you could nearly tap the subs on the back sort of thing. You're only about five rows in front, or 6 rows, something like that. So you'd see an awful lot, and you'd see Graham Potter, and he would as we know, Graham Potter is a completely different character to De Zerbi. I mean, he would barely sort of ever get ruffled. Very calm and composed. Roberto De Zerbi's got a bit of that temperament, and he is not afraid to be aggressive on the sidelines. I know he's been sent off before, so he's got the balance, I think, to do both. To be quite tactile, his players really enjoy playing for him, but he's ruthless at the same time, which I think all the top managers have. His technical detail, they tell me, is outstanding, like absolutely outstanding. How they've developed, like they're playing out from the back, sort of, which is, I love all this. 2 centre halves, another 2 in front of them. They make a kind of box, and they play in such small areas, and they work religiously on it. And tactically, he's done great in terms of how they overload the middle of the pitch. Very high risk. I mean, you spoke about Harry Kane dropping in. I mean, I watched Evan Ferguson there, right, a few times. Evan plays like a number 10 a lot of times. I mean, he drops in like centre mid, links the play. Sometimes they don't even have a striker. It's fascinating to see like how they do it. And De Zerbi's top quality.
You think that's probably Brighton's biggest challenge right now is probably keeping hold of De Zerbi now at this stage?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Look, don't get me wrong. They've lost great players. They've lost Graham Potter in the past and rebuilt. But I think De Zerbi is, he is something special. He's, as I said, like a couple of seasons ago, I think he's the next great. He looks like a super coach. Mm-hmm. It looks like he can do everything. And pretty ruthlessly moving on from Caicedo, he's gone. Bang, we're on to the next, and they're focusing on their next game. And I know we're going to touch on a few of the Irish lads later, but can you imagine Evan Ferguson, the education he's going to get, even if he's not starting? Imagine how much he's picking up, learning. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm looking at him thinking, I'd love to be you now, because you're going to get the education of he's going to make him into, for Ireland, it's great. I think he's going to make him into.
It's the perfect environment for him, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But you're right there with Zerbi. Like, you're looking at that box that you talked about, the two centre halves. You're talking about Lewis Dunk, Adam Webster, players that aren't regular international footballers, but play as if they're top class European centre halves. Yeah. And it's just the way that he has them doing that and playing that. And then you have Estupiñán down at left back. James Miller played right back the other day. He was excellent, but it's going forward where they're so exciting. You have Matoma dribbling in, brilliant finish. Julio Enciso, 19 years of age, 2 assists for Solly March, rejuvenated player. Pascal Gross then just sitting in behind. Like they're so exciting and so enjoyable to watch. Brighton.
They're my go-to team to watch on the television. Now I know City are brilliant, this unstoppable machine, but for pure entertainment and enjoyment and of the beautiful game, Brighton are my go-to team to watch. Just love, as you mentioned, Dunk and Webster at the back. Not they haven't had amazing careers. They're good, solid pros. But what I noticed about Brighton, I watched Brighton on Wolves on Saturday, and every single player seems so comfortable on the ball, receiving possession in tight areas and playing out.
And that comes from the manager.
Yeah,
that comes from the top down. They're not afraid to get on the ball and pass. If it was, there'd be a fear factor put in there where they'll just lump it long if they're anyway under pressure. But that doesn't happen with Brighton, especially under De Zerbi.
Have you seen? I don't know if you've seen that. It's this little nuance of the two centre halves, say Webster and Dunk, and like Dunk is way better on the ball than people think. I mean, he's brilliant with the ball at his feet, and what they do is they put their foot on top of the ball, almost like a Brazilian style, and it provokes you to either, well, you're going to close us down or not, and they wait till you go and press them. The putting the foot on top of the ball invites you to come and close them down, and it's deliberate.
Almost goading them.
Almost goading them. You watch them. You watch how many times those defenders put their foot on top of the ball to stop it and to try and force you to come out of your slot and then play. I mean, I saw them last season against West Ham, right? They absolutely destroyed West Ham, and David Moyes did not know what to do. Had no answer to how they played. And it was brilliant. Look, he's been ruthless with Robert Sanchez because Sanchez looks sensational. He played Jason Steele against Stoke in the Cup. And then after that, he stuck with him. Mm-hmm. And that's a sign of a good manager. You look around the dressing room, been in enough of them. You get a chance in a cup and you think, right, does that mean that I'm a cup player or am I going to now play in the league? And he almost went, no, you'll do for me. And he kept him in. He kept him in the team. And I think Sanchez was injured or whatever. Next thing you know, Sanchez gone. His trust is in Jason Steele. And, that...
I suppose, as you say, Dave, that sets a culture of everyone thinking
does.
if they play well and do the job, they'll be selected.
Yeah, they'll have a chance. But they also know, also, you fall the wrong side of him, you'll be gone. Like and they'll move on. So I think that's not playing with fear, though. I think it's a bit different, and I think I just love what he does. I love watching them. I think they're great. I mean, the challenge would have been this season, right? Which I think I was asked a few months ago. Well, people know how Brighton play, and I said, well, yeah, that's true. Like they do know how. Once everything is analysed. So how will they overcome when teams try and stop how they play? And it seems like so far, obviously, no one has stopped them. But maybe other sides will work out a way, and then let's see how he evolves. Will he do anything different? I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated to see.
Southgate was at the game the other day, so it'll be interesting to see it in the next squad whether he plucks even Jason Steele. Because as David said, he's been really, really good since he's come in.
Have either of you ever played under a manager who was just tactically above anything you've ever seen? Well, I know your favourite manager is Liam Buckley. Yeah. So he'd be the man, but Liam obviously is an astute manager, highly experienced. But
I'd say ask the question, David, considering international experience.
Well, I mean, it's always difficult. There was one in Holland who was Bert van Marwijk, who was, I mean, the Dutch I know are renowned for being big on their tactics, which
total
is
football,
true. But I probably learned a lot. I mean, I know Declan Rice has said this about Mikel Arteta, which was probably a bit of a slight on on West Ham and David Moyes, but he learnt more in a few weeks. And you think, well,
Wow.
But you know, when I can't tell you the thrill that you feel like you're learning stuff, no matter what age you are, young or old, under a top coach. And I played for under loads, and they don't have to have a foreign name. Mick was brilliant. Mick McCarthy was brilliant in his way, etc. But I think for tactically, Bert van Marwijk, who ended up managing Holland, like I probably caught him when he was on the way up. You catch those coaches on the way up, and you're sort of learning off them.
And did he just what was it about him, Dave? Did he just make you think about things a little bit differently?
Yeah, exactly. All that it would, in various, with and without the ball, in various different ways.
Right.
That we probably haven't got long enough to go into, but it's a bit like the lads talking about Pochettino or Zerbi or whatever, and at some point these top players, okay, they might go to Saudi for money. They might do. Some of them might. Don't get me wrong, but then there would be others that will just be absolutely want to work for that manager, or think he's brilliant, and there'll be some that will like I say with Evan, for sure he'll be a top player anyway. I'm not saying it's because of De Zerbi or anything like that. I just mean because of what he's going to learn under him. I mean, wow, he at this age now, Evan Ferguson might have the best football education he'll ever have. If he leaves Brighton and goes on elsewhere, it doesn't mean he's going to have a better coach than De Zerbi, but he's getting it as a young age. Like Bert van Marwijk I had when I think I was 19, 20, similar age.
Yeah. And,
you can learn an awful lot. And so, yeah.
That's the Brighton love-in done with now, Conan. Let's be honest, we all love Brighton. I want to move on to the game last night, I suppose. A really good, strong, dogged display from Arsenal last night to win at a very difficult place, Selhurst Park. Now, I know they have a good record at Selhurst Park, but still, that's a new Palace team. They were missing Zaha, and they were down to 10 men for a good chunk of the game. Showed a lot of resilience, and I suppose rightfully, touted as being City's closest challengers this season.
Yeah, I was very impressed with Royce and Partey in the middle, Eric. I thought they did really, really well. Attacking wise, they didn't really threaten too much. Obviously, they won the game through a penalty, quick free kick, obviously, and Nketiah going down under the challenge of Johnson. But an Odegaard slotting away like you'd think he would. The goalkeeping situation is the one that I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how that develops, with Brentford keeper David Raya going in and Ramsdale obviously being number one at the moment. And it'll be interesting to see if he makes one slip up, whether or not Raya will get his chance. Or does Arteta really think that Ramsdale just needed a little bit of competition to bring his performances on? And you see that.
Would you say on that you noticed that Raya is probably better than Ramsdale with his feet and the game that Arteta wants to play?
I think that, but I think Ramsdale's a better goalkeeper in terms of shot stopping,
right.
and that. But playing out from the back is so important now as a goalkeeper, and we see that with the likes of Jason Steele, the way we talked about there. Ederson, obviously, at Newcastle pinging 70, 80 yard balls. Onana did it as well. So that is so crucial to be a goalkeeper. But with Arsenal, obviously, Timber has his ACL. Tomiyasu comes in and gets sent off. Needless sending off.
Very harsh, actually, wasn't it? It was. I
don't know. The second one, like he did, letter to the law, he pulled him back. And I
suppose it's the first one I was kind of, because it was 8 seconds or something he took on the throw, and he got a booking for that. And someone else had a throw, and it was 15 seconds, and he didn't do anything.
It's consistency. That's what we always say. But look, I think Palace will be fine though. I thought they did okay. Eze's they need to hold on to Eze. He's a fantastic player. But again, Olise as well. Talk of him going to Chelsea, but new contract signed, so we'll see what happens there.
Your thoughts on Arsenal, David?
Yeah, I mean, I think they got very lucky with a penalty, because this is a routine on the training ground, right? The quick free kick, but the block, which I thought VAR would pick up.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Thomas Partey. I've done this exact free kick 1,000 times. We've worked on it in training, and someone will get the block on. I'd be the striker running in like Nketiah, and it's Partey. I couldn't quite. I don't know if it was Doucouré. I couldn't quite see on the replays who he blocked, but he goes to ground. Whether it's Lerner or Doucouré, I'm not sure, or Schlupp. But on the VAR, forget the penalty, and they're looking at offside. This makes me wonder, do they know what they're looking at? Because as as a former pro, you would be working on blocking.
Right.
This free kick, this is not a penalty unless Thomas Partey blocks. And that is a free kick, like but blocking in the box. So, I mean, people might say, well, no, it's not. Well, there was no intention from Thomas Partey to do anything apart from block. And it worked. You would say Palace, well, he got too tight, he got the wrong side. But nonetheless, the referees are looking at this, and what do they think that was an accident? Well, like accidental,
as it happens all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So
I like the way that it wasn't given though, David, because in set pieces, as you say, you work on those blocks so regularly. So if it was chalked off, I don't think there'd be as many goals from corner kicks and free kicks as we'd like, maybe.
Yeah, but then by the same token, you go back to all these VAR decisions and they labour over them. And you go, well, if you're going to spend that much time on contact in the box, hands by the side, whatever it may be, by the same token, you have to then do the same on things like this, because that was, I guess, helped get them the goal. I mean, I don't know. Like, I would like it if it was me, because from an attacking point of view. But then I think, well, if you're going to be so detailed on your VAR, do they even know that was a deliberate block? You don't even know whether the referees have acknowledged that. They've had the internal discussion, allowed it to go, and they've given the penalty. Or they just assume that was just accidental contact, or it's not, it's just part of the game. Well, the players are then having the referees over, if that makes sense, and they should know by now. I mean, I thought they got lucky. On Palace, I'll tell you a quick story. So Conan mentioned Eze, he was in my youth team. When I retired, I became Millwall's under-18.
Oh, right. I was going, geez, I didn't think Eze was that old. We're going to...
Yeah. And Eze was I remember, so it was my first, I retired, right? My first job was Millwall's under-18 coach. And I got the list of all the players, and I barely get my kids a birthday card, but I looked down on the list, and the day I was starting, I just happened to look at it. You're looking at the names, the pictures. I've never met them before, but you want to spend the time to work out who you're going to see, who you're going to be coaching, the dates of births. And I look and I was like, oh, geez, this lad's Eze's birthday tomorrow. And I don't think I bought a card in probably 10 years, but I bought him one. I don't know why. And maybe it was to try to think, right, if I'm going to be a coach and manager, I'll get the players on side and show that I care and all this sort of stuff. But anyway, so I did get him a birthday card and wished him a happy birthday. And look, we got on really well, and I really like him. That didn't stop him getting released.
Right.
So now he played Arsenal last night, and I didn't see all of it because I was coming back from holiday, but the bits I saw, and my son is the biggest fan. He's like, he's amazing. He's like sensational. I think he should have had a penalty as well. Mm-hmm. But he got released from Arsenal, got released from Fulham, and then would you believe it? He got released from Millwall, and it's a not a cautionary tale for clubs and this, that, and the other. But Millwall at the time literally couldn't carry another pro who the first team felt couldn't go and play in the first team.
Right.
And the first team at the time needed a left winger. They played 4-4-2. That was Millwall's DNA. 4-4-2, get it wide, get it in the box. Eze was a right footer, playing off the left, cutting in, a talented number 10. Millwall didn't play with a talented number 10. And, it wasn't like he was at a big club who could afford to give a contract to another pro, let him develop in the 21s. Do you get what I mean? And we can, Millwall's like, everything's run on a budget. We need players to go and play in the first team. And it just shows you, that and he never gave up, went to QPR, and here he is at Palace looking to move on. I thought he was excellent. Anyway, getting back to it, I thought he was excellent last night, and I'm sure he can carry that mantle of Zaha going.
Yeah,
and I thought
be their talisman.
Yeah.
We mentioned the penalty and the blocking and VAR, and also one of my gripes in the Spurs match was, why wasn't Manchester United awarded a penalty when your man, he blocked it with his hand? I don't care what anyone says, his hand is up, it hits his hand, the referee didn't even check it, and people are saying, oh, that's because they got away with Onana. I don't think that's the discussion, is it, in the VAR? There's a penalty there, lads, but in fairness, they got away with one last week, so we're not going to give it. I don't think that conversation is happening. But also, McAllister, and obviously, as a United fan, I'm not a Liverpool fan, but I thought that was a harsh red card on him on Saturday against who are they playing? Bournemouth, yeah. I thought that was a harsh red card. And Liverpool are struggling a little bit in midfield, and he has a 3-match ban now. Is the standard of refereeing since VAR come in gone down a little bit?
Yeah, I know Liverpool have appealed that, so they're waiting to hear back on that. But I don't know in terms of the standard refereeing. I when I went to VAR, and I'm a Liverpool fan, his studs are showing. And I think that's why it went obviously then to...
So it's in that frozen shot
That's the problem.
Where it look aesthetically
it looks real play.
Yeah.
Instead of letting it run and seeing what it looks like in real time.
Because there's very little impact.
Every challenge will look poor when it's slowed down or stopped at a certain point. Yeah. Every challenge. Yeah. But I'd have to disagree with you over the United one because...
I knew you would.
No, because Nicholas Jackson got away with one in the Liverpool-Chelsea game because it was headed onto him and his hands were in a position close to his body.
Right.
And it was the same thing with Romero. His hands weren't out. They were still they were close to his body. And
they were up.
They were up, but they were close to him. And that's why the decision was made that it wasn't a penalty.
Yeah, whatever, Conan. Anyway, Liverpool, David, they won. They started off the season with a draw at Stamford Bridge, and they've been, I suppose, made a bit of a laughing stock really in the transfer market the last couple of weeks with players they thought they were getting in didn't come in. Are they still some way off challenging, in your opinion, David?
No, I don't think they are. No, I think they're going to be. They're going to be right up there challenging. I think City. I think the injury to Kevin De Bruyne, right? I think in my mind, because there's certain players I won't be swayed on. Like, I think this guy's an absolute genius, right? I think he's a footballing genius, and I think Man City could sign 10 other top players. They are going to miss Kevin De Bruyne, and if I'm wrong, fine. But I think his loss will help teams like Liverpool close that gap. I really do, and I think Liverpool are going to be. I think they're going to be up there challenging for the league this season. And they play Chelsea, which is a difficult game. I thought Bournemouth played quite well, but I think they're going to be so close, Liverpool. I really do, and I know City are going to be strong again. Don't get me wrong, but if Liverpool could come away from Newcastle with something, I think people might, which will be difficult. Don't get me wrong, but I think people will start saying, well, you know what, they might have a chance. Liverpool, forget, I could be, because I'm a boyhood Liverpool fan, right? I could be a bit sentimental here, but I just got a feeling they're going to go really close this season. And I know they've lost a bit of steel with Henderson going, Fabinho going, and don't get me wrong, they will miss those players. But I think once they've got the talent in the likes of McAllister and Slobozai looks class, although it's soft penalty. Don't get me wrong, I think it's very soft. But I think they're going to be really, really close. I do.
Got rid of Hendo, brought in Endo. So
energy.
Yeah. Okay, so the opinion of Liverpool aren't that far away, and the City Newcastle game on Saturday night was a fascinating game. Two top teams going at it, but City, it's probably one of the most comfortable 1-0 wins you'd see in the Premier League. They were utterly dominant. I thought.
I was so impressed with them. And they didn't make a substitution the whole game.
Watch all the other managers in the lower leagues now won't make a substitution this weekend.
But he's the only manager in the Premier League that sometimes does that. He did it 4 times a couple of years ago in the whole season. He didn't make a substitution, whereas every Premier League team did. So he's just so astute in what he does and what he needs from his players. And he saw that they were being so comfortable. His players obviously weren't running out of steam. They still had possession of the ball. I thought Kovacic was absolutely superb. I know all the talk was about Phil Foden, and he was superb. On the half turn, he was direct. He brought other players into play. But Kovacic, anytime the ball came near him, Newcastle players couldn't get near him because it was just a one-touch passing in around the little triangles. And I was just so impressed with their overall play for the 90 minutes. And we talked about ball retention before, but with Man City it was just unbelievable. And it started from Ederson. Haaland had a really poor game. His touch was off. His movement was good, but his finishing was poor, and that's unlike him. So he would probably be the only player.
So he is human after all.
He is human. But with Rodri and Kovacic in there, and that's been a huge signing, I think. Kovacic,
yeah. I mean, as you alluded to here, David, like De Bruyne is gone for like 3 to 4 months. Gundogan is gone. You know, they've lost so much quality in there. When I saw De Bruyne getting injured and Gundogan gone and Mahrez gone, I'm thinking, surely City are going to be weaker, but they just don't look weaker, and that's probably down to Pep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. I watched bits of that game, and at times, you know, and City's game against Sevilla, and I watched that as well. And at times it looked like they weren't quite sure how to get, say, like Foden, Grealish. You know, they had Palmer. And I just felt something not quite right. I know they're really good against Newcastle. Don't get me wrong. I'm just picking holes in this. But at times I think, right, so where's Alvarez? Where is Alvarez going to play if they play a 4-3-3, right? Where's he going to play? He doesn't look comfortable on the left. He doesn't look comfortable on the right. So are they always going to play with 2 holding midfield players? Now, they played with 2 against Newcastle, but I'll be surprised if they play with 2 that many times a season, apart from maybe, you know, the teams that they're, you know, maybe an Arsenal or a Liverpool. I don't know. So where's Alvarez going to play? Because to me, you've got to get Alvarez in the team. You have to get Alvarez in the team. So does he get in the team as a number 10? Because that's not City's preferred way of playing. And, you know, Alvarez is a pure goal scorer. And I think at times when he was wide, I think it was... I forget one of the games he might have come on. It might have been the Sevilla game. Yeah, it was, but that was only for a few minutes. And the game after it against Newcastle. I think let's just see how they get on, because they were good against Newcastle. But I think how he gets Foden, Alvarez, Grealish, for example, in that same team in a 4-3-3. We'll wait and see.
Do you really think that Alvarez needs to start? Bernardo Silva has to come back in, and
but where would Alvarez play? Right? Where would he play?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Does he have to play?
I mean, I think Alvarez is, in terms of pure goals. You know, I would have Alvarez. I would try and get Alvarez in that team all the time. So does that mean we'll just see whether the Newcastle game is a clue? Does Pep think that he has to change and go with 2 holding midfield players to get Alvarez in the side? Because as I said, I've seen him out wide. He doesn't suit out wide, and at times he was switching with Grealish or Foden, wherever it wasn't quite. They didn't look totally comfortable. Don't know if it's a Newcastle game, might be another game. And I think that's a problem. Not a problem. It's a lovely problem to have. But whether he plays with 2 holding midfield players, because when you've got that back 4. Right, that amount of control with 2 holding midfield players. I don't know, against Liverpool and Arsenal, I'll be surprised if it might suit him in some ways, but I think in other ways they'll lose the extra players going in the box. They'll lose the extra bit of creativity they might need, and they're for sure going to miss De Bruyne for sure.
Right, lads. So that's our Premier League chat concluded, and what I've deducted there is that Manchester United are the closest challengers to Man City. So fair play to you, lads. Just before we go, Conan, the FAI Cup draw has been made, and it is Drogheda United at home to Bows, Finn Harps at home to Pats, Galway at home to Dundalk, and Cork at home to Wexford. Your initial thoughts there?
Yeah, all the the so-called bigger clubs are staying away from each other. Yeah. Drogheda Bows, the only all Premier League clash.
Of course, we get that.
Yeah. So that's going to be a very interesting tie, and you would fancy St Pat's to beat Finn Harps up in Ballybuffet and Cork City to beat Wexford at Turner's Cross. Galway and Dundalk, I think, will be the feisty one out of them all. Galway obviously running away with the first division at the moment, beating UCD yesterday last night 5-1.
Squad, haven't they?
They do, and with Premier League staff as well, with John Caulfield obviously with the amount of work he's done at Cork City, and Ollie Horgan. So it's Yeah.
The dream ticket.
The dream, yeah.
Okay,
But,
so
interesting.
very interesting. So we have come to the end of episode 22 of House of Football, William Hill and Sports Joe. I'd like to give a big thanks to our guests this week, David Connolly and Conan Byrne. Lads, thanks very much for joining us. Lads, everybody at home watching this, listening to this, you know what to do. Subscribe, like, share, tell your friends, and we'll speak to you again next week.
You've been listening to House of Football, brought to you by Sports Joe and William Hill.